Hey everybody, welcome again to Disability Landscape. I'm your host Charlie Brose. With me today, very special guest host, author of the Fall series featuring a wonderful character. This is Brian Lutterman. And with us today, we have two representatives from the State Council on Disability, Trevor Turner and Brittanie Wilson. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, in a nutshell, if you can, what does the Council on Disability do for us?
So the Council on Disability is a resource and technical resource for the state of Minnesota. So we we serve as advisors to our state legislature and our executive branch government state agencies, and we also provide technical resources and advice to our businesses, helping them comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act or building codes or things like that,
Okay.
and also being a resource for and helping Minnesotans with disabilities understand the our complex services that we provide at the state level, and understanding where they can go for help should they need it.
Okay. And what are your positions within the organization?
So I'm the public policy director for the Minnesota Council on Disability.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm the communications officer.
Okay. Okay. Let's touch real quickly here. State legislature just wrapped up a little bit ago, and you guys work hand in hand with them to try and get initiatives passed. What were the best achievements, or what were the biggest achievements this year for you?
So there weren't many, but there were a couple of things that did get passed that would really help Minnesotans with disabilities. We had our mental health bill, which had a lot of money that went toward building facilities, a lot of mental health facilities and things like that, and a lot of for treatment, especially for BIPOC Minnesotans. So there's a lot of different provisions in there that will help Minnesotans with disabilities, but also Minnesotans that have mental conditions that would be really served well by this.
Okay.
We also had what we call a policy-only health and human services bill that passed as well. That had a lot of provisions that changed a lot of policies that would either improve certain policies with people with disabilities or including mental health as well. There's a lot of mental health things in that bill as well. So mental health was the big
Okay.
winner of this legislative session.
And mental health, as many of us know, we consider it a hidden disability,
Yes.
and it does affect quite a few people, whether they want to admit it or not, unfortunately. Right?
How about disappointments? This session, we've reserved a little longer time for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely need it. We had about a $10 billion surplus, which was the largest in Minnesota history. And Democrat and Republican did come together and agree, the leadership and Governor Walz did come together and agree on a framework, an outline for spending that money. It was the 4-4-4 plan. Which was $4 billion in spending, $4 billion in tax cuts, and then the rest would go to the rainy day fund to go to support potential economic downturns in the future, which we may be seeing. Unfortunately, when it came to the granulars of the details of the different plans and spending, they just couldn't. Our legislators couldn't agree on how to spend that money, and they let the
Usually the
time
case.
run out. Yeah, so that's the biggest disappointment. And there was a lot of things that were left on the table, especially things that would have helped people with disabilities.
Okay. Now, one of the primary reasons to get you guys here is, June is Pride Month, but July is a different kind of Pride Month. It is Disability Pride Month. And if you know any of the history, or can kind of give us a story behind that, and what ways can we use that to help our community?
Yeah, absolutely. So Disability Pride Month is the whole month of July. Can't wait. I feel like it's the summer of pride with LGBTQIA and Two-Spirited folks as well, celebrating in the month of June. But so Disability Pride Month really got its start after the passage of the ADA, July 26, 1990. And so shortly after that, you know, there were like disability pride parades that went on in different places like Chicago and Philadelphia, and so now it's not recognized federally as Disability Pride Month, but we are doing work to ensure that the governor recognizes, the governor of Minnesota recognizes July to be Disability Pride Month. I think that this month is so, you know, it's an incredible time for people with disabilities to share what they're proud of, where their pride comes from, if they are having difficulty maybe even having pride in their disability, right? Because it's such a spectrum. But it's just a time to celebrate us, our stories, our experiences. I think about disabled joy being such an act of resilience. And so it's just a time to really be proud of our community. For many, it's also a time to acknowledge that things like the ADA is really the floor and not the ceiling, and that it doesn't protect folks in the same way who may have invisible disabilities. And so, you know, we've definitely got work to do, but it's a time to find that joy and that pride in being a part of such a vibrant, multifaceted, you know, community.
Brittanie, are there any particular events or things we should be looking for during July, celebratory things coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few things going on. I do co-chair the Anti-Discrimination and Intersectionality Committee for the Minnesota Consortium of Citizens with Disabilities, and they've got two different events that are going on. July 14th, I believe, is going to be an ice cream social, where we're going to, you know, read the proclamation, have an activity, and ice cream. I can send you all the details on that. Later in the month, the same committee that I'm on we will also be hosting a Disability Pride panel where we just want to bring multiple folks in the community to talk about what it means to them. And then on July 26th, the ADA Planning Committee is having the annual ADA celebration.
Certainly.
And that's going to be virtual. That will be all about like different activities outdoors that Minnesotans can enjoy. And another part of that will be something I had a part in, which is bringing the track chairs to 5 state parks around Minnesota. And I got to try those and test them out. So that will be a part of the celebration as well. And I'm sure there's many other things, but those are some of the stuff that's coming to mind.
Is there a website where people can go to get details on these events?
Yeah, absolutely. So the track chair information would be on the Minnesota DNR website. The ADA Planning Committee has its own website, and they've got a Facebook page that you can follow. MNCCD stuff you can get through social media like Facebook and Twitter, and I can make sure to provide that information as well for you after the show.
Absolutely. Now, has the Disability Pride celebrations or acknowledgments, has it spread throughout the country more, or is it just still pocketed in certain areas?
I think it's definitely spreading, absolutely. I mean, there's so much incredible activism that's going on for people with disabilities by people with disabilities, which I think is a really big turn that we're seeing, because I think the community is so used to like a specific type of person, maybe it's like parents or, you know, whomever, that's speaking for us, right? And so I definitely see that it's something that's spreading, and I know that there is some activism going on to try to get it federally recognized, that July is Disability Pride Month. So,
and there's a lot of cities that recognize officially Disability Pride Month, but there are no states that recognize Disability Pride Month, but we're hoping Minnesota will be the first.
Okay. Well, Minnesota is a very progressive state when it comes to that type of thing. Want to circle back on the track chair. I mean, I saw a photo of it, and it looks like a lot of fun. And is there particular parks or regions of the state that's available, or is it, in different areas of the state?
Yeah, it's in different areas of the state. The one that I went to that's close to the metro area is Myrie Big Island and State Park, and they are incredible chairs. They're so much fun to ride. One thing that I really appreciate about it is that it's not just for people that use wheelchairs. It can also be for people that maybe just have a difficult time, walking long distances or on uneven paths. And so it's really there for folks to use and have fun. They're free to rent, so that's great. There's going to be a transfer board available at each site.
Okay.
Some kind of more technical things that some folks may be interested in is that the ones that the state procured have a joystick on the right-hand side. You're not able to move it. The armrests go up, the chair tilts. You can take off the footrests as well.
Okay.
And I've used a wheelchair my entire life, and so it was really incredible to be able to feel like I was just free to move my body wherever I wanted outside. I mean, I was really off-roading to really test it out, and it was an incredible experience. I don't think I smiled so much in like a really long time, and it just brings out the kid in us, that free-spirited person that can just really do and go where they please, and I think that that's incredible.
And if I recall, when you did this test drive, and it was still fairly chilly outside.
The first time I rode it was definitely in December. It was so cold, but I didn't honestly notice as much because I was having so much fun.
Okay.
But that's the cool thing, that they're available all year round, and I didn't have any issue getting through the snow, and that was like incredible.
That's a big thing.
Yeah,
For a
I want
wheelchair
those.
user, that's a really big thing.
It's a huge thing. I mean, I'm like, can we get that on wheelchairs now? Like,
Yeah.
I want to go in the snow.
I was thinking we've got these Pride months back to back here, and there's probably a lot of efforts and concepts applicable to both types of Pride, and one in particular. Both of you have been involved in anti-discrimination efforts, right? That's part of your charge at the council. I'm just wondering about hidden disabilities, and it just occurred to me there could be a process of coming out for people with disabilities as well as there would be for people in the LGBTQ community. Can you talk about that a little bit, about people who might be fearful about revealing that they have a disability?
I think I want to hand it to Trevor first because you have some experience with this.
Okay.
So I think we should go to you first.
Absolutely. So I'm really glad you brought that up because I actually wrote a blog on our website about that exact topic. Having a hidden disability. I have a hidden disability. I have Usher syndrome, which is deaf blindness,
Okay.
and a lot of people don't realize that I have trouble seeing and have trouble hearing in many situations. And I spent my entire life really trying to hide it. I didn't really want people to know that I had a disability because there's a lot of internalized ableism because of that.
Okay.
And I'm also happen to be gay, and so I grew up also trying to hide my sexuality and internalizing a lot of homophobia as well.
Okay.
And so I absolutely see the parallels, and it really took a long time for me to accept who I am, both my disability and my sexuality.
Okay.
And it really takes, a community to bring you out of the closet, so to speak, even for disabilities as well. And I think that, I love that, Pride, LGBTQ Pride, and Disability Pride are right next to each other in the summer, which is the best time, and because they really do have a lot of parallels.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to add too, like I identify as queer, and one thing that we've had conversation around, especially at MCD this month, is really the fact that Pride isn't all that accessible to a lot of folks with disabilities.
Certainly.
And when you live, intersectional lives, I know for me, it's like I experience and can experience a lot of ableism in the LGBT community, or racism in the LGBT community, but also in, when I'm around, people of color, I can also experience ableism, and so I think for folks with invisible disabilities, it can be so much more challenging because we're really taught in our society that you can see disability, and if you can't see it, then there's nothing, you don't have a disability, right? And we have such a, I think, kind of small definition of what disability is.
Sure.
And so I think people with invisible disabilities can really challenge so much of what we've been taught, and so much of what we internalize, and that can be challenging for folks. And in kind of speaking of intersectionality, it can be downright dangerous for people in different communities to identify as being disabled,
Sure.
Identify as being queer or part of the LGBT community. And so I think it's important. It's good that these 2 months are next to each other because it offers a great time to really speak about the lived experience of folks that live at these intersections, and to hear what challenges and barriers that they face because of them.
And so for both of you and people like you, there's a definite big overlap between these 2 months. That you have twice the reason to celebrate who you are. And and with the hidden disability such as Trevor's, is there a way to say, this is who I am and this is what my disability is, and in a way that celebrates Pride Month?
There's definitely a way to celebrate it, but one of the challenging things is that it takes other people to understand it, because one of the things that as a hidden disability and being gay is that you're constantly coming out all the time. People assume that you're straight, people assume that you don't have a disability, and so there's constantly having to explain to people everything about your life, and quite personal things. You have to be an open book to where a lot of other people don't have to worry about that, have the privilege of being a little bit more private,
Right.
whereas my life depends on me being a little bit more of an open book. And so, what really helps is when other people take the effort to understand and so that I don't have to constantly do that.
Right.
But without being intrusive or inappropriate or too personal, we all need to be educated to avoid that kind of discourse
Right.
with people as well. Are we making progress, guys, in the societal acceptance of people with hidden disabilities?
Yeah. I think we're making progress. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like that there's no better time to be alive if you're having a disability or being gay or being part of the LGBTQ community. So I wouldn't want to go to any other time, but I definitely know that the future is definitely there's a lot more possibilities for improvement.
Well, and from the time that the ADA was first enacted, we can see by leaps and bounds where the good has happened, but by the same token, there's still a ways to go.
One of the things that really comes to mind this month for me is marriage equality. There's so many people in the disability community that are queer that can't get married because they'll lose their benefits.
Sure.
And so, and it's interesting, like I was at the Capitol when the marriage equality bill passed in Minnesota, and I remember it kind of being bittersweet because on the one hand, it was incredible that, so many members of the community could now get married if they want, but then also I knew that there's so many people in the disability community that we can't get married, because then our spouse's income would count and we would no longer qualify for services.
Right, because it's such a double-edged sword that when if you were to say marry an able-bodied person, your benefits evaporate, and that's really difficult. Because you want to depend on both your side, both persons being out there, being independent, but you still need that boost that you can get from some of the benefits you received.
Absolutely. My partner is an able-bodied person, and I rely on him a lot for many different things, including driving and stuff like that, because I can't drive. And so, but I am excluded from getting certain services because our incomes together make way too much, but there's no way that we could supplement that with our own.
Right.
It's a very complicated situation.
And for people with hidden disabilities, that can also be a problem for disability insurance companies or for the Social Security disability. If you look fully able, then the presumption is kind of against you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think people with invisible disabilities have to fight so much harder to get accommodations, to get benefits, to be believed. It's a lot harder. You know, I have a really good friend that has autism, and she always says, like, oh, you would have no issue getting, you know, services, but I have to kind of just overly explain time and time again, you know, provide all this proof, and still sometimes get denied. And I think that part of it too is that many folks think about the ADA specifically as like a box to check, you know, or they think about it as like ramps. You know, accessibility is ramps and automatic door openers, and it's like accessibility is so much more than that. And we really kind of lose sight of access when we think about it as a box to check. I, you know, really say like access is love, and I know that I feel the love when I can fully maneuver around in an area and, you know, and be myself. But I think that folks with invisible disabilities, that can be such a really just big hassle. You know, I think that ableism, it plays a big role in that as well.
Have you been hearing from people since the pandemic started about problems with disabilities associated with, say, long COVID? And I was struck by your comment about people being believed, and that I know that has sometimes been a problem. People long COVID. Has your office had occasion to come across cases like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that, you know, COVID has been such a mass disabling event, and so many more people are now, like you said, having long COVID symptoms and kind of wondering, what do I qualify for? Am I disabled? And so I know a lot of people reach out to you, Trevor. Have you had?
Absolutely. A lot of people have been reaching out to me and the Council on Disability, you know, trying to say, what do I do in this situation? What services do I qualify? Do I have a disability? And I think we're still kind of in a period where people aren't even sure that long COVID is a real thing, and it absolutely is. You know, and a lot of people are suffering because of it. It's another hidden disability that people have to really go through, and people are learning firsthand that, you know, having a disability is not always great in this society.
And because the long COVID is such a new phenomenon, that there's so little understood about it, that there are times when it's hard to say what category it falls in. Is it a disability? Is it an illness-based thing? And, you know, how do you treat it, and how do you compensate for it?
Yeah, that's very real, and I think that's why, you know, I wish everyone in the world was into disability advocacy, because it's like one of the only groups that has open enrollment, right? Like, and I wish that people really understood the benefit. Like, this isn't just for, you know, people with disabilities now, but this could be your future. I think that scares a lot of people. There's kind of like this able-body-minded fragility that I feel like I'm often confronting with other people, to get them to think about how important disability rights and issues are, because we're not only looking out for ourselves, we're looking out for the entire community.
And you know, we've dealt with a number of people on this show that, as guests, that, you know, they've been able-bodied one day and some type of accident, and they become paraplegic or quadriplegic, and their whole life changes, and they have to understand, you know, we've been in this fight all our lives. You know, welcome to the party.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why disability pride is like so important. You know, I feel like, I know me personally, it's taken me such a long time to get here. There were so many different points in my life when I really believed that I was worth less, or that I wasn't as desirable of a person, or just all the different things that we can internalize in this ableist society. And I think that that's what is so cool about Disability Pride Month, because you get to hear people's real life experiences and stories, and it's not all about the bad, right? I mean,
Right.
of course that exists and needs to be acknowledged, but there's so much love, joy, celebration, and just pride that come from our community. We have so much knowledge that is really undertapped and undermined, and it's really cool to be on the side of just being proud of who I am, because I know it's been a struggle
Right.
to get here.
Right.
Well,
Well-
I'm pumped. Thank you. I think we all need a pep talk every once in a while
Yeah.
about
Absolutely.
that, because, and I'm sure there are people along the way who provided you with encouragement and to achieve the success that you have gotten today. Is there anything else important we ought to know about Pride Month?
Yeah, I think that what I love about Pride Month is that it makes it very visible, and so then you're seeing doctors and lawyers and all spectrum of people coming out and celebrating who they are, and then people see that and have that representation. And I think that the same thing goes for Disability Pride Month, is if we're very visible and we're having our parades and celebrations and inviting all the people, and we're seeing like how diverse and our community is, and that just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you're relegated to the margins of society. You can definitely have a very fulfilling life, and doing whatever you hope to dream to do. And that people with disabilities are so innovative, and we're really great assets for companies and governments and things like that,
Right, right.
because we have a perspective that many people don't have.
Yeah. Well, we are out of time, but I do want to thank Brittanie Wilson, Trevor Turner, and my special guest host, Ryan Lutterman. This has been Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.